Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
The Suns have yet another Bradley Beal problem, but this one has to do with good health and not injury. This one involves telling a $50 million a year player that, with all due respect, he is temporarily no longer a part of the team's rotation. If you haven't noticed, the new-look Suns are threatening to save their season. They're 3-0 with Colin Gillespie in the starting lineup. They have found something in this feisty, spicy blend of surrounding Kevin Durant and Devin Booker with role players who are willing to put in a full shift on defense, and as a result, they are no longer an abomination on that end of the floor, and their victory against the Cavaliers on Friday was a big step in legitimizing what they're doing. Now, for all of his missteps that have marked this season, Mike Budenholzer would be insane if he did anything to mess with this newfound late-season chemistry, because it represents the reprieve of a lifetime, and it maybe even changes the calculus regarding a KD trade. Now, they say Beal will be reevaluated this week, but there's really no need to wait, and there's really no evaluation necessary. When he's deemed healthy, Beal must continue to do what he's been doing, and that's take a seat at the end of the bench. Anything else would be the worst kind of March Madness.
No, I mean, we just take it one day at a time in this league. You never know what's around the corner. So, happy with the way those guys are playing. You always want to be healthy and have more options. So, I'm not looking too far past really just taking tonight in, and tomorrow will be a day off, and we'll get ready for practice on Sunday.
That was Mike Budenholzer when he was asked about rotations when the team is fully healthy. That answer came Friday night after the Suns beat the Cavaliers, and they were missing 7 players in that game. And they had one big man available to them in Oso Ighodaro. But the one day at a time thing is a convenient fallback for a lot of coaches. But I understand the thinking at that point. Why think about it if it's not a reality? It's becoming closer to being a reality. Bradley Beal, I've heard reports that the reevaluation is today. So we shall see.
Yes.
Now, he is listed as out for tonight's game. So that most likely won't change between now and tip-off time a little after 7 o'clock in downtown Phoenix. But I tend to agree with you. You've been waiting all season long to find some sort of spark.
Something.
This had been a sparkless basketball team for about the first 65 games of the year. And they're playing with a different edge to them right now. And I think the ingredients matter. And I think you got to stick with those ingredients if you want to replicate that recipe. And unfortunately for Bradley Beal, for Grayson Allen, for those guys in particular, who had been part of the rotation during a lot of and I'm not pinning it on them, but don't change what's working. Because so little has worked this year.
Yes, and at risk, if Bradley Beal happens to have an army of stands, this isn't personal. This all has to do with what we're seeing from this basketball team now. And it would be very, very easy to kind of, all right, they beat the Bulls, but it's the Bulls. The Bulls have been playing really good. Okay, they beat the Raptors, but the Raptors were tanking. You can't say that when you beat the Cavaliers.
No.
So are we saying, you guys saying in general, when Beal comes back, he should not play? Or he should not start?
He should not. Look, the rotation can only go so deep. You need to keep this at the 9 guys, the 8 that you saw Friday, plus Nick Richards.
Yeah, so...
There's no Grayson Allen either, then.
Again, yes, but Grayson Allen to me is a role player. He already is a role player.
Yeah.
And so now it's just time for him to kind of just watch, and with all due respect to how good he has been in the past, this is very simply not messing with something that is finally working.
Yeah, I mean, if Bradley Beal came back and he'd been starting again before this most recent injury, Colin Gillespie goes to the bench, and let's be honest, Colin Gillespie probably falls out of the rotation completely, if that's the case. And Colin Gillespie has been one of the players that has been kind of the engineer of this difference in energy and effort, and even offensively the other night. And Kevin Durant made reference to this too, about the ball popping. You can see a little bit more crispness offensively.
Yes.
Getting into your sets earlier, less turnovers, more assists. Those things have been evident. And I just think, it's rudimentary thinking maybe on my part, but if I'm a coach and I see something working for me, I'm going to stick with it as long as it's still working. And why upset the apple cart if you don't need to?
And if you've got the ability, as Matt Ishbia does, to just absorb sunken costs and not get hung up on the fact that we're not playing a $50 million a year guy, you take advantage of that. That's a luxury we have with this owner. That it's because a lot of owners, we've seen this in a lot of other sports. If an owner is splashed down a lot of money on a dude, fix him. Fix him.
Yeah.
Matt Ishbia isn't like that. So I would hope that this is a no-brainer. I would hope that this team just continues to vibrate. There was a time, Vinny, when I was assured the Suns had very little chance at finishing the season with a winning record. Now I think they can continue this run they're on, even with the quality of competition they're facing. Because look, these high-end teams like Milwaukee, like Boston sat a bunch of players last night, and they still won.
Yeah, they're still winning.
And they're still winning. But my point is you never know when, like Casey Jacobson said, you never know when something's going to pop for a basketball team, and it's never too late if you stumble into the right mix.
Yep. Here was Devin Booker Friday night after that win over the Cavaliers on the starting lineup and what he's feeling from it.
I mean, it's a great lineup. I'm having fun with it. But we're hanging our hat on the defense end. We've been saying that all year, and, it's super important. We can score with the best of them, and, I feel like it's easier to score, after we're getting stops and, getting cross matches in transition and making plays for each other.
Now, an alternate viewpoint is Grayson Allen and Bradley Beal have had a very good view of what's happened while they've been wearing street clothes on the bench. Does that urgency, that high effort, does it kick in? Does it rub off on them? I don't know, but again, I'm not jonesing to find out either.
No. Listen, I really like what they've got because it's like all of a sudden, all of their little tiny issues, the not getting back on defense, the lazy play. You remember at their worst how embarrassing their defense was on certain nights. How they couldn't stop anybody from attacking the rim.
Most recently as 8 days ago in Los Angeles against the Lakers, where everybody pointed out the Luka 3 and Luka coming to the bench and he's mic'd up for the ABC broadcast and says, I've never been this open in my life. That was kind of the low point of it right there.
That's it.
There's been very few even singular possessions in the last 3 games since that game in Los Angeles that have stood out too. Where you're pointing or throwing something at the television saying, why aren't you closing out? Get out there. Challenge a shot. It's been a different effort altogether. And maybe that was their low point, and maybe that was their look in the mirror moment and say, God, we're better than this. It doesn't take much to exert effort on defense. And if you do it once, you can do it twice. And they've done it consistently over the last 3 games. It's been fun to watch.
And listen, as I said on Friday, I am so here for this. If this team could pull a happy or just a respectable, dignified ending to the season, look, it's not what I expected, but it would be a great, pleasant surprise.
Yeah, we're a 2 blowout week though from us going, why did we get our hopes up?
Maybe. But listen, the way they're playing defense, it gives me hope because it's just math. When you look at the way the team can fill it up offensively, and they've been one of the association's better offensive units since the All-Star break, it's their defensive metrics that have just soared in the last few games.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.